This is the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, keeping you informed about the happenings in Annapolis and the area. Local news, local sports, local events, local opinion, and of course, local weather. The Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief starts now.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, August 4th, 2020. This is John Frenaye, and this is your Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief. The big story today is the tropical storm that is bearing down on Annapolis, the Chesapeake Bay, and Anne Arundel County. And County Executive Pittman sent out a notice yesterday just advising of some different things that are going to be happening today. If you have any kind of power outages, you want to be able to report them to BG&E at 1-877-778-2222, or you can do that via their app, so you can download the app right now and you can just do that real easily. The county is cautioning everybody to use extreme caution when using generators if we do have a power failure. You want to make sure that you're following all the instructions and always keep generators outside in well-ventilated areas away from open windows. Carbon monoxide is not something anybody wants to mess around with. Never drive through standing water, and make sure that you obey all of the road closure signs that may be up, because you may not know what hazards lurk literally around the corner. Additional information can be found at aacounty.org/OEM, which stands for Office of Emergency Management. And as far as businesses go, they do suggest anybody that may have any tents outside that they're using during the COVID pandemic, you should make sure that they're very secure, or preferably take them down. If you own a boat or you're a marina owner, you want to make sure those boats are secure. And emergency management is prepared with an evacuation and shelter plans, but that will come into play if indeed it is needed. It is not expected to be needed. There are several departments in the county that have already announced closures. Department of Public Works has said that they have postponed Tuesday's curbside collection services until Wednesday. In addition, the department does ask people to limit their wastewater discharge during and immediately after the storm to minimize the flow through the public wastewater system. The Department of Recreation and Parks has announced that the summer child care camp programs in the senior centers, aquatic centers, and South County Rec Center will be closed. The Department of Aging and Disabilities is not going to be holding their senior nutrition program, which is a food distribution program. That's been rescheduled for August 6th from 2 to 4 p.m. And the Anne Arundel County Public Libraries will all be closed tomorrow. Finally, the Anne Arundel County Department of Health has canceled all of its COVID-19 testing clinics for August 4th. You can still call the County Health Department to make an appointment at 410-222-7256. And lastly, my own recommendation, make sure you're following George at dmvweather.com for all the latest updates, and get his app as well. The other big news yesterday was that the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association pretty much canceled fall and winter sports for high schools this year. They said sports will not be allowed to be played until February 1st, 2021. But strangely enough, they said they're going to allow student athletes to engage in practices in their first semester as it formulates a way to handle competition in the second semester. I don't know whether this allows for scrimmages or not, but apparently they're going to be practicing for a sport that they're not going to be able to play. Superintendent Arlotto has asked Coordinator of Athletics Clayton Cupp to present him with a plan to hold sports-specific practices that meet state, local health and safety guidelines for all sports during the fall, and he plans to have that finalized by the first day of school. And Governor Hogan is pissed. Yesterday, he sent a nastygram, a letter to the State Board of Elections demanding an update within 48 hours on the status of mail-in voting and polling places for the November 3rd general election. The State Board of Elections was unable to reach any kind of a consensus on a plan coming out of the primary, and Governor Hogan said that the November 3rd elections will be occurring under existing state law, which allows for Marylanders to vote in mail, take part in early voting, or cast their ballot in person on Election Day if they choose. This is consistent with the CDC guidelines, which do recommend giving voters plenty of options. On July 10th, the governor did also order them to send out mail-in ballot applications to all voters statewide. In a statement yesterday, the governor said, "I am now giving SBE 48 hours to report to me, the Board of Public Works, the Secretary of State, the presiding officers of the Maryland General Assembly, and the public, explaining why those applications have not been mailed to Marylanders." In the letter, he said, "In addition, we expect you to provide your plan for how to conduct the election under existing law, including the minimum number of polling places that you will be able to open in each county. If you want any information, you can go to elections.maryland.gov, and there you can sign up to vote by mail and have a ballot mailed to you, or you can sign up to be an election judge, which will be in short supply come November. Hey, a couple months ago, I found a new podcast that I'm really hooked on. It's called Sing Second Sports, and we had a bonus podcast that we released yesterday afternoon that we did with them. We talked with Ward Carroll, Chris Cervello, and John Schofield about it, and they're all about Navy sports. And they often bring in Bill Wagner from the Capitol, who is really a wealth of information on Navy sports. John is the former Navy PAO, and Chris and Ward are both graduates. So there is a lot of inside knowledge, and there's a lot of inside connections there. If you are a Navy sports fan, this is the podcast for you. Sing Second Sports. You want to go search for that wherever you get your podcast, but definitely give a listen to the bonus podcast we put out. You find out a little bit about what it is, and we actually took a little bit of a poll to find out what was going to happen with Navy and Notre Dame, which is scheduled to be played Labor Day weekend. Okay, and before we wrap it up, yesterday Annapolis lost a friend, and yesterday I lost a friend to COVID-19. If you are even remotely politically active in Annapolis, you know or have heard of Robert Eades. He had been hospitalized for about a month shortly after making one last delivery of food to those less fortunate than him. This man was a force. It didn't matter who you were or what authority you might have held. If he wanted to get his point across, his point was coming across. I asked him about that one time, and he said, "We all put our pants on the same." And that's the truth. The best word that describes Robert is fierce. Not in a bad way, but with 100% conviction and ready to see it through to the end. You knew if Robert came at you, you were in for a fight. And usually, you'd end up the loser. He owned Neat and Clean Taxi Cab and was a fierce, there's that word again, advocate for the children of Annapolis. The kids never had enough to do to keep them busy. He was always asking for more from the city for the children. When the black community, in particular the children, were slighted, maligned, or done wrong, you could expect Robert to get it right. Or at least to try to get it right. He had a really gruff exterior, and I loved hearing of his younger days, of the trouble he used to get into. He was a man of the street and saw how many problems our kids face today. I remember one aha moment when we were talking about drugs and violence, and he said that the little kids today are almost destined to go down a bad road. The drug dealers flash a lot of cash and pay the kids a lot of money, well, to a kid, to make a drug deal. There was always money, and it was real easy. So why wouldn't a kid jump into that when they were older? It really opened my eyes to the larger problem, which still remains largely unsolved today. The last time I saw Robert in person was back in January. As he always did, he wanted to take a gang of kids to the annual Martin Luther King dinner up in Glen Burnie, and he was squawking on Facebook that he had room for 3 more kids for the dinner but didn't have the money. Well, I told him that I would cough up the money. We met up, and I tried to give him a check, but he wasn't going to have any of that. He made me download the Cash app right then and there, which I didn't really trust. The app, not Robert. And he sat there and he watched me make that transfer. He wanted to make sure that those kids that he promised could go were indeed able to go. And they did. And I trust those kids all learned a lesson in community from Robert that night. This man will be missed. I pray for him, his family, and for his daughter London, who I shared my iPad with many nights in city council meetings as her dad was putting a mayor or an alderman in their place. Robert, thank you for being you. Thank you for caring. We need more like you. Robert's signature sign-off for his Facebook post was always, quote, "I cry." And today, I think I'm going to steal it. And for you, Robert Eades, I cry. Rest in peace, my friend. All right, that is it for us this morning. Make sure you're checking out eyeonannapolis.net throughout the day because we do have updates throughout the day. And with this tropical storm in place, you want to make sure that you keep up with George at DMV Weather. That is a must. I suspect you'll have several updates throughout the day. You'll be able to get them here as brief updates on dmvweather.com or his app, which you can search in the Apple app or the Google App Store. Look for DCMDVA Weather, or you can find him out on Facebook or Twitter. Now, you want to hang out for his very first forecast of the day? He'll be here in just 1 minute, but first, a brief message from Rick at Solar Energy Services.
Hello, energy consumers. This is Rick Peters, president of Solar Energy Services. Have you been looking for ways to save money recently? Maybe you should consider solar energy for your home. Or are you waiting for the technology to get cheaper? If so, how long are you going to wait? Today's solar costs less than 20% of what it cost 10 years ago. But while solar prices have declined every year, so have the financial incentives. Bottom line, if you wait for cheaper solar, you're also waiting for lower incentives. Take my home, for example. My solar solar system was installed in 2010, and it's been paid off for almost 5 years, and I no longer have to buy any electricity for another 15 to 20 years. If I waited for cheaper solar, I'd still be paying an electric bill. At Solar Energy Services, we have thousands of satisfied customers who are sure glad they didn't wait. So what are you waiting for? Sunshine's a wasted. Call us today for a free solar design at 410-923-6090 or on the web at solarsaves.net.
Sunshine, sunshine, nothing else can make me feel so fine.
Going out? You need the most up-to-date local weather. Here's George Young from DMV Weather in Annapolis with today's forecast.
Hey everyone, this is George with DMV Weather, and this is your Eye on Annapolis forecast for Tuesday, August 4th. Isaias came ashore in North Carolina just north of Myrtle Beach last night, making landfall just after 11 p.m. as a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 85 miles per hour. As of 5 a.m. this morning, Isaias is still a bit south of the Annapolis region in southern Virginia with sustained winds still 70 miles per hour, just below hurricane status as it approaches the area, with heavy winds expected to kick in across Anne Arundel County between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m., and they should last for several hours into tonight with sustained winds frequently above 40 miles per hour and gusts between 60 and 70 at times as the center of Isaias likely passes between Salisbury and Easton, Maryland. This remains a very dangerous storm, with the primary threat being flooding and flash flooding from excessive rain, but also threats from wind damage, falling trees, tornadoes, which this storm has a history of producing already, and even some storm surge in the local waterways, likely in the range of 1 to 3 feet. The upside of this is that this storm is a fairly fast mover, so take these next few hours to make sure your devices are charged up and you're set for the day before the full effects of the storm kick in and possibly start causing power outages. Stay tuned for updates throughout the day and look for us to report live in the field during the day from Annapolis, as well as possibly D.C., Baltimore, and more. Okay, that's it for today. This is George Young of DMV Weather. Make it a great day out there. Stay healthy and be safe. And be sure to get our free app on all of your devices by searching DC MDVA Weather in the Apple or Google App Stores. And also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and use our website each day at dmvweather.com so you can always stay weather informed.
Have you ever been to the Annapolis Mall when it opens for the day? Maybe you've noticed the line of folks waiting to get into the Apple Store. As you may know, I'm a Mac user, and today's episode of the Daily News Brief, in fact, all of the episodes of the Daily News Brief, have been produced right here on my Mac computer. What you might not know about is MacMedics. They were founded here in Annapolis in 1989, and they are an Apple-authorized premium service provider, the only one in the Baltimore, Annapolis, D.C. area. And what that means to you is that they repair all Apple devices, including the iPhone screens and batteries, all without an appointment. And most repairs are done the same day, usually within 2 hours. They also sell everything except the iPhone and the watch for the same price as Apple. I don't know why you would go anywhere else. Give them a call at 410-757-MACS, or if you're not into the whole letter thing, 410-757-6227. Stop by their retail store in Severna Park on Benfield Road, or their service center in Lanham, right off of Route 50. Or you can always check them out online at macmedics.com. I'll tell you, they've saved me quite a few times, and I know they can save you.
You've been listening to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief. Tell your friends and colleagues this is the podcast where you can keep up on the latest with what's going on in Annapolis. And also tell them about our website, eyeonannapolis.net, where you can find even more information. This podcast comes to you every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m., keeping you informed with the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief. And take a moment to listen to our other podcast, The Maryland Crabs, released every Thursday at noon.